Welcome to SF24. My name is Kenneth Kwan, and I'll be your Asian host. And I'll be starting the plenary session on how do we move people from problem focus to solution focus. And we're going to look at the how to build a sustainable culture that delivers results. So if you're here for the very first time, I want to welcome you to SF24. It's an awesome conference. We are about almost halfway through. Slightly more than halfway through, and it's been a marathon. Yeah, and so there'll be a lot of interesting ideas we'll be sharing. From organizations, to therapy, to coaching, leadership, change conversations. So if you can just at any point of time just join any of the sessions that you like through the Padlet. At the end of this session, I will give you a link to the Padlet, and where you can just choose to join us for the rest of the other sessions that will be carrying on. All right. So right now, I'm going to start with mine. Let me see how I can share my screen. Okay. Hang on for a while. Okay, no pressure. Okay. I'm going to share my slides right now. Okay, are you able to see my slides? Awesome. Thank you very much. All right, so today I'm going to talk about, from an organizational perspective, how do you build a culture that delivers results? All of us attend a lot of programs. There are many, many training programs out there. But we all know that training programs itself has limited efficacy. There is always some challenges in translating it into everyday usage. And how do you ensure that the training program actually delivers results? Okay, so I'm going to just share with you ideas of how we in my company, Deep Impact, we have used a whole process. It's a whole consulting process. And if you are a trainer, a speaker, or you're just a person that's working within your organization, that is trying to lead change, or a middle manager, here are some ideas of how you can take that training or the idea that you have learned and actually embed it into the culture to deliver sustainable results, right? I just need to stress that culture doesn't fail because people don't care. It fails because good intentions don't survive reality. Okay, I need to stress that a lot. We have people where we work with have very good intentions. They really want to see things happen. But when they go back into the work environment, they realize that sometimes the intentions that they have don't always translate into real tangible outcomes. And there's always the operational requirements. There's this firefighting that happens every single day. People are already so busy. And how do you actually get them to think ahead? So I just want to stress that it doesn't fail because they don't care. It fails because good intentions don't survive the reality. And we're going to see how we're going to make this into a reality. So my company's name is called Deep Impact. Our job is very simple. We're here to build great workplaces and help organizations deliver results. I need to stress that these two components are really important. You need to build a great workplace where people can thrive, they enjoy working in. And they say that, if you think about it, we spend most of our time at work and probably the other half at home with our family. So a lot of time is dedicated to working. And why don't we make the workplace a great place to work? And not only that, the great workplace itself does not exist for itself. It exists to serve as a purpose. And this is what leaders are always concerned about. It has to deliver results. It has to deliver great business results for organizations, or even the results that we want. If you're a government, then you're looking at different numbers as well. So there are always results that organizations are looking for. And we need to be able to speak the language that the leaders understand and know, because it's all about results. It's not just building a great workplace. The great workplace is to serve a result as well. I'm going to share with you, through our many years of consulting experience, working with large organizations, how are we going to do that? Okay, I'm going to share and peel the layers of onion. So one question that I have, why do you think it's so hard to turn learning into a sustained behavior and deliver results? Why do you think it's so hard to turn learning into a sustained behavior and deliver results? So can you do me a favor? Can you please type in the chat right now? I just want to hear your comments and your ideas. Why do you think it's so hard, to get people to act on what they have learned and also sustain that behavior and also deliver results? Please type in the chat right now. I'd love to hear your ideas, your thoughts. Yep. Vinay says it right. It's easier to fall into old patterns. Yeah, I mean, they're comfortable, right? We've always been operating like this. Why do we need to create more change, or unnecessary change? Yep, definitely. And Janelle has said it correctly as well. They are old habits. They are workplace urgencies. There's just so many things that demand our attention. Why do we need to just focus on this, even though it's important? And of course, Andrew says that, too many people train tools. Yes, there's too many toolkits, there's toolkit. But mindset is important, because the toolkit only makes sense if you have a certain mindset, an approach, a philosophy that you have that enables the tools to be used actively. And Tommy says it very easily. Yeah, it's easier not to change. You're so right. It's easy to continue business as usual. Yes, knowledge is not enough. Attitude matters. True. Yeah. And the question is, how do we change knowledge into applied knowledge, which is wisdom, right? And of course, it's very easy to just keep talking about problems, to address problems. Yeah. And it's so hard. I'm going to share with you some of the difficulties. There are real problems. There's a lot of problem-focused conversations at work. If you think about it, every single day, there are problems happening, and people are using the language that they're familiar with. In fact, I was trained as a mechanical engineer, and you must understand what are the first few things that engineers must have. We must have a problem statement. We need to go down root cause analysis, because this is how our training has taught us how to do things. So we start asking 5 whys, the Toyota's famous 5 whys, go down root cause analysis. We try to understand. And while that happens, unfortunately, we get very good at diagnosing what doesn't work, but we have not spent enough time diagnosing what would work and how to move people forward. And when you apply this language with people, you realize that you may have different outcomes. For example, people can get defensive when you keep asking a lot of whys. Why did this happen? How come you are doing this? How long has this been happening? You realize that conversations can get very tense. People get upset, they get frustrated, and they start blaming, justifying for why things are happening this way. And you realize there's sometimes aggression, whether passive or open aggression. And it's difficult to move forward. Conversations are very problem focused, and it's not so easy to just move forward. Second thing, most organizations treat learning as the goal. They feel that learning is important, and they just want to equip you with the skill sets. But they don't realize that learning itself is just the beginning, right? Sometimes the end for them is, that's the goal, I want them to develop capability by learning the skills. And they are more concerned about how you rate the training session. How many stars did we get? Did we get 5 or 5? But learning itself is not the goal, okay? And I'll share with you what is the goal at the end of the day. Then number 3, the real problems are sustained behaviors are left to chance. That means we just tell the individuals that to apply. Most training coordinators, they'll just say, okay, you have learned these new skills, please apply, do something about it. Or even the leaders say that as well. They hope that their people apply. But I just want you to know that hope Unfortunately, it's not a strategy. It's not a strategy. Okay. You have to be very intentional in making it happen. And so let's talk about how can we deal with these real problems that's happening at the workplace. Okay. So let's look at the very first thing. There are a lot of problem-focused conversations that's happening. I think the shift that we have is we want to develop what we call solution-focused conversations. We want to help people develop a new mindset, a new philosophy in the way they see reality. It doesn't just start with a mindset. We want to equip them with tools, because mindset and tools and skill sets come together. Mindset and skill sets. It doesn't just happen with just the mindset, and then you may not know how to execute this in a very deliberate way as well. So let me share with you what we have done, with organizations. So we have this program called Small Steps to Big Changes. It's from this book that I wrote, Small Steps to Big Changes. We have a whole training program on it. And in this program, we focus on how do we create possibility thinking within the organizations. Rather than firefight every day, think about all the business problems. And it's true, we need to talk about problems, but we don't need to dwell on it. We can use these problems as a precursor to what's ahead. We want to talk about what's the desired future, what's preferred. And after that, we help them focus on how to make it, what's already working. What are some signs and evidence of current success that's happening that we need to systemize across the organization. It doesn't just happen in isolated pockets. And number 3, what we focus is forward momentum. How do we lead this new change in the organization? Bottom up, not always top down. And why is it important to be bottom up? Because if you make it bottom up, it feels doable by the front line. They don't feel that change can only happen when my leader makes the change happen. The power is returned back to them as individuals, and they feel that they can just move the needle and they can co-create with the leaders on what will be the next possible step. And what we've noticed is when people win small, they want to win more. Winning is highly motivational. And this is what the program sets them up for. And in the program itself, we actually teach what we call the DEEP model. This DEEP model is used by us, okay? It's a solution-focused conversation model where DEEP, as you know, is an acronym. D stands for Design the Preferred Future. In this preferred future, we want to ask, what do you want different? What's this new reality? Can you explain this difference from the client's experience? Can you explain it from your own colleagues? If you're delivering this service, how will you be doing it differently at the highest possible level? I'm just curious, what will be different in the way you think, in the way you act, and the things that you must know and the capabilities you need to develop as well. So we have this model where we teach them, and they're supposed to use this on a real business case that they have. So everybody that comes for our program actually already has some challenges that they want to work on, and we actually use this model to solve them. And of course, we use the explore current position on scale of 1 to 10. Where are you exactly with respect to the preferred future? And of course, the next part is examine what works. E stands for examine what works. What are the useful changes that are already happening that you need to pay more attention to so that you can constantly repeat the success again and again? And this is important because most people only look out for flaws and frustrations, what's holding them back, but they don't pay attention to changes that are already happening, useful things that they need to think about and do more of, and how can they leverage and expand it across the organizations. And number 4 will be, what is one small step forward, which is plan steps forward. We want to encourage specific small steps. And small is important because it's easy to do, it's useful, it's fast forward. Many people can do it. And remember, when they win small, they want to win more. Winning is motivation. They start thinking, okay, since I've already taken some small steps and I made it better, I'm just curious what will be the next small step. So this is the model that we get them to do and to apply it to a real business problem. And actually, once they've learned it, okay, we don't end with the learning. The learning itself is not the goal. I need to stress. Okay, the important thing is how do we apply and we focus on generating results. Application and results are the goal. It's very important for them to start realizing that the goal line is not just to learn, but it's to apply intentionally over a fixed duration. So in our program, we sometimes work with clients from 6 months to a year to get them to apply everything that they have learned into a real challenge, into a real business problem that they have set up and identified early. And it's important to get them to start working on it, apply, and we will, during the midterm, we will have a conversation with them. There'll be an online check-in where they talk about what's working, how they're moving the needle, and what needs to happen to move to deliver the result. And not only that, at the end of the session as well, at the end of the 6 months or 1 year, we actually come in and report on the changes. And they need to be able to identify, share with the rest of the participants what was exactly better. And can you and we want it in two ways, in the qualitative or quantitative way. Qualitative that, okay, we can see that the attitude towards this has been so much better. What are some observable differences have you seen? And of course, it must be quantitative as well. Like if you're set to change the customer experience, what was better? What was before? And what was after the 6 months or 1 year? And this is important because remember, the learning has to lead to results. It cannot just stand alone by itself. And of course, the third thing, how we handle the real problems is how do we sustain this behavior? And this is important, okay? We feel that the shift for us was sustained behaviors need to be strategically designed. It needs to be designed in the whole process. That means once the people have learned, they have learned how to apply on very specific, we need to find, to specific issues and challenges, we need to find ways to embed these practices into the everyday operations of the organization. I need to stress that very a lot, because if you think about it, if you don't embed it into the daily operations, it gets lost. Okay, you don't see the effects. They can't attribute that the program has actually worked well for them. And so one of the things that we have done to embed it, was to actually, one of the clients that we work with, which was a large hospital in Singapore, it was a public hospital. It's about 4,000 over people. We worked with a few hundred of their managers, middle managers, and some of the leaders. And one of it was, how can we embed the deep model into the morning roll calls? Okay, so in the hospitals, morning there are roll calls, and every time they have a roll call every day, it can be very negative. It can be very negative. It's all about, a patient complained yesterday, this person almost fell down, and don't do this, read our SOP, here's what we should be doing differently. But when we shared with them the principles of small steps, in the program, small steps to big changes, then they started asking themselves, okay, one of the nurses, the deputy director of nurses, she was just sharing that, we cannot have this type of morning roll calls anymore. Our people come to work motivated. They are in healthcare because they wanted to make a difference, in the patient's lives. But every single day we are using a language that just kills them. It's just demoralizing. She wanted the whole conversation to shift. And with her, she started having conversations with her middle managers, the nurse managers of every single ward, and it has changed, And here's the conversation, how a morning roll call conversation has been. For example, it now talks about, hey, yesterday we had a patient complimented us. Wow, I'm just curious, what did we do to get that compliment? Okay, and what's necessary to systemize this process so that we can get more compliments from our patients? Okay, great. Yeah. So all these conversations start teaching people how to win a lot more at work rather than how not to lose. And this has shifted the mindset of the staff, and also the conversations change as well. So this is what we mean by sustained behavior has to be strategy designed. You have to think about how do we embed this process. So one of it is roll calls. And the next one we are looking for is, of course, managers have meetings with their staff, very frequently, very, very frequently. Sometimes they have it every week, or every couple of days. And why not we start off with using a deep model as well? And can they catch people doing the right things? Are they able to tell stories around what worked and what was better? What did this person do that made the difference? And how can we all learn from this person and systemize it into our processes so that this thing can happen systematically rather than being very, constantly intentional about it. It becomes a process we can optimize as well. So sustained behavior has to be strategically designed in the whole learning process and the delivery process as well. And I need to stress one important thing. Senior leadership, really matters. The involvement of senior leaders. So a lot of times, when most organizations buy programs, they tend to run programs in such a way that the senior leaders, they need this program. The middle managers, they need another program. The frontline staff, they need another program. And what happens is most of the time, the three programs, there's no consistency. The language they use are all different. And it's very difficult to lead a coherent organizational change, especially when everybody is talking in a different language. And this is where we work with the senior leaders to develop a common language, okay? So a common language, senior leaders must be able to participate in the same program as their people. And in the case of the hospital, we actually got the leaders to be involved in the program as well. And so that they can understand the common language. It's very important to ensure that there's common language throughout the organization. Because I just want you to think, imagine what will happen if you talk about, small steps. Here's what we can do to move the needle. And imagine the senior leader who will look at you and say, no, we are not interested in small steps. We're only interested in big impact projects and big steps, things that will move the needle directly. We're not interested in very small. So imagine if there's this incoherent language, it's going to be a lot of problems. So that's why common language is important. Helping the leaders to understand that they have a role to play, not just in sending their people for training, but they have a role to play to understand the program, the philosophy, and deploy it in their leadership practice as well. Common language is very important. Number two, the leaders also need to model the new behaviors. They need to talk about it. They need to hold conversations. So they need to hold conversations in a town hall, like, hey, what's our preferred future, with regards to this problem? And they start sharing. And this is important, especially right now. There are so many change initiatives of different clients that we're working with. There's one client, they have a 2030 vision, and all the changes that must happen must be aligned to this new vision that's happened. And it's important that the leaders model, talk about the behaviors as well, and their insights to what's happening, and certain, maybe even their own leadership challenges or struggles that they have. Like, example, one of them told me that, I was a doctor who said that I'm so used to problem-focused approach because that's the only way I understand or how you even diagnose or work with patients. But right now, when it comes to organizational approach, I realize now that I need to be a lot more solution focused. So he started focusing on what's our preferred future, what's already working well, how can we celebrate this win as well. So it's only when the leaders model the behaviors consistently and they constantly create consistent experiences to make this happen, it will shape people's belief. Hey, modeling is very important. So modeling is not just for the senior leaders, but it's also for the middle managers as well. Because a lot of times we notice that the staff don't see the senior leaders all the time. In fact, they see them only once in a long while, but you see your immediate manager very often. And that's where even your immediate manager, that the supervisor or the manager has to model the behaviors consistently. And so sometimes we just hold sessions for them to just reflect on their behaviors. How is it serving them? How is it helping them move forward? and we just invite them. We don't tell people to change. We just invite them that if it's working for you, then do more of it. If this old practices of this leadership style is not working well for you, then maybe you want to consider something different. Just maybe, right? And of course, the next important thing is also when working with senior leaders, we realize that it's important to work with them because they have the ability to scale the practices across the organization. So what happens is when we notice when we work with different groups of people, success is happening in that department or in that ward, but it's isolated to that ward because they only have control, their circle of control only is within that ward, right? Or the department. But when we get the leaders involved, they start listening to what's working and they start saying statements like, okay, I think this is a great idea. We need to scale this across the organization. And this is where the exciting thing happens. So I'm going to share with you one very particular thing that I thought was really interesting. So in the hospital, there is the chief medical board. It's a position, of a person who is in charge of all the medical affairs. He understands all the medical procedures. He's the guy. He's the man in charge of the safety, the procedures. And there was one particular nurse who shared about how he's an orthopedic nurse and he needed to teach everybody, the new nurses and doctors, on how do you do this setup for orthopedic procedure. The challenge was a lot of times they would teach the people and a lot of them will just learn, but they don't remember it as well as him because he's so experienced, right? And not only that, when the crisis happens, they need to set up the equipment in a very rushed time, all of a sudden they panic, they forgot some things and they take a longer time. They didn't get the equipment correctly. So this orthopedic nurse, so he was just saying that, maybe my training currently to these people there has to be some improvements. I can't just teach them and expect them to remember everything, right? It's just not possible. But what I could do is set them up for success. And how do I set them up for success? How do I reduce friction in the learning process so that they can apply it a lot more easier? And he thought of, okay, why not I take a photo of the exact equipment setup? And he even color-coded the equipment. He circled the equipment. This one take from this shelf, that one take from this shelf. It was just a four-page. He printed it out, put it in a simple plastic binder, nothing sexy, yellow binder. He just said, this is the orthopedic setup. In fact, it was so good that when you looked at it, you knew exactly how to set it up and where to take the equipment. And the best part is they could do it repeatedly, again and again, at a very fast timing, and it's highly accurate and it's reliable. In the hospitals, it's what we call high reliability processes. It needs to be reliable. It needs to work 100% all the time because they cannot afford any sense of failure. And when the chief medical board heard it, he said, "Oh, that's a great idea. I'm going to take your idea, put it into the iPad, and right now all the other wards have this." And from what I've heard, the 4 other wards are using his process. So imagine this orthopedic nurse all of a sudden felt like, wow, he was so happy because someone has taken his idea and scaled it across the other departments on other wards as well. And this is what we want to create within the organization. That's why we need to work with leaders to scale the idea and not just isolate pockets of success, but we want to make it across the board or across the organization. And this is a very exciting conversation. And when the leaders come in and listen, then they start realizing that, wow, my people are doing amazing things. They don't just make statements like, I sent my people for training and I don't know what happened. Now they can see and witness firsthand things are moving. Their actually targets are met. They're actually hitting very important KPIs that is set. And the next thing is what we've noticed, if you want to build a sustainable culture, is to always sell the success of what's happening in the organization. Results really matter. If you think about it, what really matters to leaders? What do you think are the things that matters to leaders? There are many things that matters to leaders, but if you can quantify them, you could always put to certain things. For example, in a hospital, Patient safety is important. Uh, Patient experience is also important. And what we call throughput. Throughput is very important. That means how fast they enter in and out of the system. So this is important. We need to be able to speak the language of the leaders. So that's why when we design this when we have this program, the program will be able to hit on these three numbers that is important to a leader. And if you talk to a leader who is in a factory, what do they want? Think about it. They want, I remember this leader was saying, this is the battery that we are producing. I want the cost of this battery to be as low as possible. Because at the end of the day, this is about operational effectiveness. And then the cost of the battery has to go down. Cost has to go down because in the factory, that's important. And if you think about it, for another attraction that we work with is a very large attraction in Singapore. What's important to them? So they say guest experience, NPS, Net Promoter Scores are important. And our employee engagement scores are really important. So results they really matter. So by sitting down and understanding what's important to every leader and trying to put it together coherently, if I can get everybody, within your team, your departments that you have, to all focus on the key results, the numbers that is important to you, would that be useful to you? Of course, the answer will always be yes. Yes, we galvanize everybody, tell them that, okay, whatever you do, whatever you work on for the next 6 months to a year, we will want you to hit on all these, any of these numbers, because not everyone can hit on the different numbers, right? But if you can hit on a few of these numbers, your leaders will love you a lot. So, and when we started doing it, the results matter, okay? And it's important for the leaders to consistently hear what's different and what's better. And it's important to be also quantify the results. So I want to share with you some of the interesting results that we had. So we worked with scientists, the scientists, and research arm, and they said the meeting times have reduced up to 50%. So much time, because they don't spend so much time on problem talk already. They start painting what's the issue, what's the challenge, and they start focusing on what's our preferred future, what do we want different. And there was another client that reported that, okay, there were radiological reports. When they look at the report, it's sometimes, when the scans is subject to individual interpretation, and they realized that they had certain error rates that they want to reduce. And by following her way of doing it, it reduced it by 50%. So they used the deep model and they actually solved it for them. And of course, in another organization, in a logistics organization, engagement scores increased from 7 to 17% to 7 to 17% across the different groups of people. And of course, in a hospital, this was something that was really beautiful, where this nurse manager was sharing that the number of falls in her ward dropped from 7 to 0 over a 7-month period. She was really happy about it. And of course, there was another nurse who was in isolation ward. She said that she needed 250 steps to take a consumable and then pass it. And because she's in isolation, so she has to, wear the equipment, the PPE, the personal protection equipment, just to take a small item. And then after that, and then go back, before going back in, wear it up again. So much time is lost, right? And she doesn't need to have more steps, although she needs to be healthy. But she managed to come up with a solution, use a deep model. And what she did was she said, okay, I've identified probably like 15 over consumables that most of the time the patients have asked for. And when I create a trolley, I will modify the trolley to hold on to these 15 consumable items. And not only that, okay, she actually thought through and she said that, okay, for all these consumable items, I will even outline, certain things that outline how the equipment look like, and then put it on a trolley so that people know where to put it back. Like for example, a scissors, she even drew an outline on the trolley. So for the next shift of people, they saw it, they understood, they immediately just followed it. So she was able to reduce consumables steps from 250 to 5. Another one was another group of people that we worked with was talking about, okay, the clients are waiting very long, for this particular process. So what can we do to reduce the waiting time? So all these things are very important to leaders. And it's very important that when we get the people to start working on these mini initiatives. They start noticing what was before and what was after. And the good thing is, most of the time, if it's something that's important to them, they are already measuring it really. They're already measuring something. So there's some basis of measurement. And so what they need to do is they need to measure something that's after as well. And then gain evidence. What would tell you that things have been better? Can you provide very clear evidence? So this is what we call evidence-based, right, results as well. I just want to end with this statement. Sustainable culture is not built through big launches, big statements, and we good. Everybody excited to talk about it for the next first 1 month. Give everybody something, do a pledge. But it's actually built through intentional design, through a program, and then get people to be trained. And then, of course, there has to be certain consistent behaviors that must happen. The role modeling of the leaders is important. The behaviors is expected from the middle managers, and the way they engage their staff is important. Consistent behaviors, and it also has to be reinforced over time. And the last part will be how do you embed all these ideas into the daily practices of the organization. And that's where you are able to deliver better results, and it's sustainable as well. Okay. So this is something that I feel really strongly about. And my question to you is, what is your next small step? What will you take to be able to just help people apply more and build a sustainable practice or culture? Maybe you can do something. Can you do me a favor? Please type right now into the chat and let me know what was one idea that you thought was really useful that you could be more intentional to do in your practice. Okay, build a common language. Fantastic. Yeah. And it's important for the leaders, middle managers, and everybody use a common language. And even thinking about it, it's a process as well. How do I, in my town hall meeting, we encourage the leaders talk about what's our preferred future, and then use the scaling. Where do you think we are right now? What's working and how to move? Yeah. And then so using a common language is important. And the best part is when I was in a strategy planning retreat recently with a client. So they did our program 6 months ago. And then recently, in the whole strategic planning process, they use our deep model as well. We taught every of their strategy groups to use this model that we have, and then talk about what's their best hopes with respect to this particular 2030 vision that they are going towards. Yeah. So the common language, get them to revisit, use, and deploy the tool so that it can constantly be built up over time. Like the idea of one small step, fantastic. Okay. Yes, Desmond, you mentioned about doing more of what already works, and that's important. So in part of one of the conversations that the leader needs to have is to hold with their people. I'm just curious, with respect to this particular challenge or difficulty that we have, what's already working well? What's some small signs of success that we need to pay more attention to? And this is very important. Yeah. And especially we are working with one particular company that offers services, and they went digital. So a lot of their services are right now digital, and they are right now asking, okay, how are we helping our clients to move towards this new digital solution platform that we have developed? And how can we think through, rather than think about this market is unique and they only do this, but how can we learn the practices of this particular market and then transfer it to across Asia as well? Yeah, fantastic. Do more of what's working. Ask outcome questions. Yes, their outcome, very good. Of course, the leaders will always tend to think that, please focus on my outcomes. And of course, the next one will be, yes, I'll bring down the goal to small steps. Yes, it's very important because sometimes organization goals are very big, they're massive. But it's very important for the frontline staff to start thinking what will be one small step I can take to move the needle. And this is a very important conversation. Or else they will start saying that, okay, only this step has to be by the leaders, or the system must change. If the system doesn't change, I can't do anything. So it makes them feel very crippled. And it's very important for us in solution-focused practitioners to start asking, okay, I know the system must change. I know this process has to change as well. I'm just curious, what would be one small step that you can take to just move the needle right now? Bring the solution process back to them again and helping them realize that they have power to make that small change as well. Fantastic. Yep, when training leaders, Strong said me, when training leaders, the learning is not the goal. Yes, application is. And results are. And the next thing is I have is here, yes, help them to see the positive elements, not just the flaws. Definitely. If you want the organization to be more optimistic, we need to focus on what created success. People don't feel they're winners if every single day you just tell them their lacks, their gaps, and where they're not doing well. We can't create winners or championship mindsets if every single day they're being reminded they have failed in something. All right. Okay, everybody. Thank you very much. Thanks for sharing with me your next small step. Connect with me online. And if you are interested, you can get my book, Small Steps to Big Changes. Just go to smallstepstobigchanges.com. It's available in soft copy and hard copy. And of course, connect with me as well. I am very active on social media, so much so that I realized I shouldn't be spending so much time, but I do. So connect with me, at any of the platforms that you're using at Kenneth Kwan page, or if you're LinkedIn, just look for Kenneth Kwan. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. I will open up the time for questions if you might have. If you feel that it's time for you to leave, it's okay as well. And if there's anybody who wants to ask any questions, you can let me know. And before I end, I just want to encourage all of you to join the rest of the amazing sessions that we have. I will just key in right now. The link to the conference is below. To the rest of the conference, you can choose. It's like a buffet, you can just choose from the many amazing topics that you can have, can learn from. If you just want to hang out, release stress, get to know like-minded people who are using solution focus in their different areas of practice, you can connect them in the coffee bar at the link that I just added in. All right. Thank you very much, everybody. And I'll see you next time. For those who have questions, I'll be here to answer any of your questions. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, you can just unmute yourself and just go ahead and ask. It's not a very big group here. Yeah.
Hi, I want to ask, what's your turnaround time in your experience to make this shift happen where every morning meeting is about, as you said, with the patients, last night, whatever problems we had with the patient, up to the point where the conversations go on to talk only about the good stuff and the solutions. Is it like 6 months, 1 year, 10 years?
Okay, I'm going to give you the same answers as any investment product. Results may vary. No. I wouldn't know, but we can see amazing conversations happen in less than 3 months. And, when the leader starts opening up or speaking differently from how they normally act, and you realize that you respond to the leader differently because of the way they ask you questions. And so that's why in solution focus, we focus on the interactions, right? And you start asking another set of questions that help them to look at things differently. So you realize that the positivity starts happening in just less than 3 months. But what we do, we encourage 6 months is because so that we can actively do something and we can measure a result. 6 months is not too long, it's not too short as well. I don't think we are able to solve major problems in 6 months, but we are able to move the needle in a very specific mini initiative. And this is what a lot of different clients have seen as well. So I guess the end consideration is how active is the leader in using the conversation. Yeah, and that's where I will focus on. And the more they use it, it's not just they speaking it, but they also have to create consistent experiences. For example, if I want my people to speak up more, because speaking up is very important, in certain places. If they don't speak up, it might actually cause the patient to suffer because we notice something but we didn't speak up. So the leader himself or herself also needs to create conditions for this person to speak up. It's not just treating this person well, giving them time to talk, but I need to create consistent experiences to encourage the change in the mindset. And that's the difficult part, the experience creation part. That's the difficult part because they have their own set of preconceived ideas about me as a leader. Because previously I didn't talk like this, but right now I'm talking to them and I need to resist my own urge of coming in too fast, trying to control the conversation because it's too silent. So all these things need time to develop. But the good thing is it can happen quite fast if they are constantly reminded of the experiences and the way they speak to their people. Yeah. Thank you.
I think I'll just want to add. So hi, I'm Janelle, working with Kenneth. So when we engage the senior leaders, we have a debrief with them to say that when they engage us and they want to go on the journey with us, I mean, more of like engaging us to go on a journey with them. This is the role they play and what is expected of them. So we give them some pointers on what to do. We also help them to see that, when these people that you send for training, they are supposed to help you offload. So that's what the leaders want to hear. I don't want to take on more. I want to offload. So how can I offload? So when we speak things that are of their worries, their mindset, then it brings them it helps in the buy-in as well. So then they will be more engaged to quickly want to implement things. And when they go through the program with us first, before they are participants, they are already more primed to adopt the language. I hope that helps.
Yeah. There's one more thing. Helping the leaders understand that there is a certain role they play is very important because a lot of times they just think, okay, go and fix my people. Just give them this training and it will happen. They'll all be solution focused. It doesn't happen so easily. And that's why we need to educate the leader. Okay, we're going to run this program, but we need you to be involved in the pre-program, like having conversations with them and send them for the program and the post-program as well. You have a role to play in fostering or encouraging or nurturing this new behavior. So the ones that have fantastic results is when the leaders are actively on board and we constantly have this conversation with the leader. It's not just a one-time off because they say that, oh, yeah, I will do it. Then they delegate this to somebody else. But those that have experienced good results, those are active with us. Those that we noticed didn't do very well are those that just say, okay, I've learned it, then that's it. I just let my people figure it out and I let my managers just take over from there. Yeah. So it's a process that we need to engage the senior leaders in the process as well because they have a very big part to play in reminding them, pushing for certain things to happen as well. Because remember, it's not, people don't automatically apply, but they need to be encouraged to apply. That's why I say it's a very intentional process to develop a sustainable behavior. Yeah. What else?
Happy.
I just hope that the minutes are, so the 3 minutes are enough. I have a case in mind where the leadership wants to all the others follow the rules better. And I wonder, when I'm listening to your presentation, how would you start to go about it? Yeah, any thoughts on that?
Okay, I'll be curious, to find out what would that mean to them. Usually, if they follow the rules, so that I can do something, right? So I can deliver on my numbers. Is there something
Yes.
specific? So,
Yes.
for example, we worked with a construction company, and safety is very important to them. They will tell us safety briefings like, so many times, so many different ways. It's after a while so boring. It's difficult to enforce safety because it's not a sexy thing to talk about. And so every time a leader wants them to do, their staff to do something, it's always so that they can meet a number or objective that they have. Usually it will lead to that. And we'll be curious, okay, if this is the way the numbers are there and you need to hit it, then that program has to be aligned to how can it deliver on that? How can we have more of such behaviors? Or what is the and what then I will focus on what will be the joy of compliance, the joy, rather than what will be the penalty of non-compliance, and helping leaders to tell stories, to build stories around this, because they complied and therefore it resulted in something. So there is some element of storytelling. There is some element of recognition for compliance, and there should be some component of rewards as well, because we can't just encourage and recognize you and that's it. we don't encourage or pay monetary benefits to encourage the behaviors. So here are some ways that we have seen organizations do it, and sometimes they even use artifacts as well, some small little tokens that they can use to say that, hey, with this token, you are now entrusted to save the lives of other people. So every time you hold on to this, it's not just your job, but you remember that we're doing this because we're here to save lives. Yeah. So organizations use all these in various ways to get more compliance. So I don't know what's the context, because in every different industry, there are just different things to consider. But there are certain things that we can do to embed it into the processes of the organization. Yeah.
Maybe just one quick
Thank you. Very helpful.
One simple thing that we did was we worked with the corporate comms, or it could be the HR. So we get them to highlight the good behaviors. So it's no longer just, okay, one off, but I get to be the hero in the story because I get published, So in just now Kenneth's story, this guy's work gets published 2 times, one during the, in the meeting, and then the other one was in the town hall. So it's like, you're highlighting the good behaviors. So that helps.
Yeah. So we actually took a step further by thinking about how do we permeate this across the organization by sharing the win. And they actually have a managers engagement forum that every 2 months, we want to highlight a win in front of so many hundreds of their managers. And this helped the organization to remember that, things are moving, things are changing. We are actually making the change a lot faster than expected. We are creating the right mindsets, and things are happening on the ground, because the leaders also need to help their people to shape their beliefs as well. So this is on a more organizational level. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you all. I guess that's all the time that we have, and thank you so much, and please join us in the following sessions, and I wish you an awesome day, night, morning ahead. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.